Welcome back to another episode of the Paradox Analyse.
Burn them all. Where's my sister?
He was very brave, your brother. Your father, too. He didn't deserve to die.
Burn them all, he kept saying. Burn them all.
Burn them all!
He got himself killed before the wedding.
He said the same thing he'd been saying for hours. Burn them all.
At the Citadel, I transcribed a High Septon's diary. He annulled Rhaegar's marriage to Aerys. He wed Rhaegar and Lyanna in a secret ceremony.
Are you certain?
It's what the High Septon wrote in his private diary. I don't know why he'd lie.
A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
And then he kidnapped her and raped her.
Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. Rhaegar didn't kidnap my aunt or rape her. He loved her.
Would you ever consider writing a prequel to Song of Ice and Fire series once it's finally done? Such as the backstory of Lyanna and Rhaegar, or Ned and Robert? I'd love to see how it all started.
One of the things I've been trying to do with the series is to tell these stories, tell the stories of Robert's Rebellion and some of the stories of the history of Westeros in successive revelations and flashbacks and people remembering things. So at the same time the story is moving forward, it's also kind of moving backward.
But there's a problem now. The TV series has caught up with the novels and George is nowhere near finishing the 6th volume.
Luckily, we've had a lot of talks with George about where he's going. We know the end point, and we're hoping that, that end point will be very much in keeping with the spirit of the books.
All the relics in the teaser represent someone.
You are my sister. You're the only Stark in Winterfell. Until I return, the North is yours.
Tyrion Lannister. I name you Hand of the Queen.
Mine's Needle.
Good name. Going to help me walk again?
You'll never walk again.
There's still time.
Is there? For a 40-year-old knight with one hand?
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn, breaker of chains.
But it's still Longclaw. He gave it to you. It's yours. It'll serve you well.
So who does the feather represent?
Never wanted to leave.
And gaps are being filled in, and you're learning. You hear about this event in the first book, and then you hear a little more about it in the second book, and then in the third book you hear about it from a different person who has a very different version of what happened from the previous versions you've heard. And then there's this hole in it which gets filled in the fourth book.
The feather has a strong symbolic with the past.
My Aunt Lyanna. I've seen her statue in the crypt. My father never talked about her.
Your Aunt Lyanna.
My father never talked about her. Sometimes I'd find him down here lighting the candles. They say she was beautiful.
I saw her once. I was a boy living with your mother's family. Lord Went held a great tourney at Harrenhal. Everyone was there. The Mad King, your father, Robert Baratheon, and Lyanna. She was already promised to Robert. And you can imagine what it was like for me, a boy from nowhere, with nothing to his name, watching these legendary men tilting at the lists. The last two riders were Barristan Selmy and Rhaegar Targaryen. When Rhaegar won, everyone cheered for their prince. Remember the guys laughing when he took off his helmet and they saw that silver hair how handsome he was, until he rode right past his wife, Elia Martell, and all the smiles died. I've never seen so many people so quiet. He rode past his wife, and he lay a crown of winter roses in Lyanna's lap, blue as frost. How many tens of thousands had to die because Rhaegar chose your aunt?
Rhaegar didn't kidnap my aunt or rape her.
Yes, he chose her.
He loved her.
So who told the lie?
Littlefinger decided to play a game. He either went himself, knowing Brandon would be coming down the King's Road to Riverrun, and told Brandon himself, or he sent a rider to deliver the message to Brandon.
Are you fond of riddles?
Why? Am I about to hear one?
3 great men sit in a room, a king, a priest, and a rich man. Between them stands a common sellsword. Each great man bids the sellsword kill the other 2. Who lives, who dies?
Depends on the sellsword.
Does it? He has neither crown nor gold, nor favor with the gods.
He has a sword, the power of life and death.
But if it's swordsmen who rule, why do we pretend kings hold all the power? When Ned Stark lost his head, who was truly responsible? Joffrey, the executioner, or something else?
I think Littlefinger has a better idea of what Varys wants than Varys has an idea of what Littlefinger wants. Littlefinger is an agent of chaos who likes to be unpredictable and succeeds in that.
Power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall. And a very small man can cast a very large shadow.
The feather does not only represent the past, it represents Littlefinger and the lie that set everything into motion.
I thought I might find you here.
The lie was his revenge.
The Mockingbird. You created your own sigil, didn't you?
Yes.
Appropriate for a self-made man with so many songs to sing.
His shipboard inventory.
I'm missing something obvious you're about to point out?
2 feather beds. He's bringing 2 feather beds for the cabin.
Who is important enough to Littlefinger to merit a feather bed besides Littlefinger?
You know, I don't know if that as a writer, that I really believe in the conventional, cliched happy ending, where everything is resolved and a good guy wins and a bad guy loses. We very seldom see that in real life or in history, and I don't find it as emotionally satisfying myself as what I like to call the bittersweet ending.
Jon Arryn wisely chose for Robert, but Jon Arryn died. Then Robert, then Ned. So ended their glorious revolution.
And Westeros has been burning ever since.
Let it.
How Targaryen of you. One of the mad ones.
Fire turns even the proudest oaks to ash, leaving newer roots space to climb.
The look was something that I was quite, instrumental in myself, creating. So but I brought in a picture of Peter Mandelson, who's a British politician that you may or may not know of, who was part of Tony Blair's government, also known as the Prince of Darkness.
And they underestimated me because I am a fighter and not a quitter.
Private Eye nicknamed him the Prince of Darkness. All-powerful, orchestrating events with a flick of his finger.
So I hope by the time it's all finished, I will have expanded backwards as well as gone forwards, and many of the gaps will have been filled in, and you'll know more about the whole Robert and Rhaegar and everything like that.
I've hoped to meet you for some time, Lord Stark. No doubt Lady Catelyn has mentioned me.
She has, Lord Baelish. I understand you knew my brother Brandon as well.
All too well. I still carry a token of his esteem, from navel to collarbone.
Perhaps you chose the wrong man to duel with.
Well, it wasn't the man, that I chose, my lord. It was Catelyn Tully. A woman worth fighting for, I'm sure you'll agree.
Your Uncle Brandon. Your handsome, arrogant, cruel Uncle Brandon. He almost killed Peter in a duel. And your mother loved him anyway.
And she loved me too. I was her little confidant.
Just like her mother, she'll never love you.
In the end, she wouldn't even let him kill me. Please don't hurt him.
And I think some writers do that. And I think that's always a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, if you've planned your book that the butler did it, and then you read on the internet, someone has figured out that the butler did it, and you suddenly change in midstream and it was the chambermaid who did it, then you screw up the whole book, because you get this foreshadowing early on, and you've got these little clues you planted, now they're dead ends, and you have to introduce other clues, and you're retconning. It's a mess.
I'm afraid of him. Oh, you should be. He's a dangerous man.
Know your strengths, use them wisely. One man can be worth 10,000.
The king heard him. "You stiff-necked fool," he muttered. "Too proud to listen. Can you eat pride, Stark? Will honor shield your children?" Cracks ran down his face, fissures opening in the flesh, and he reached up and ripped the mask away. It was not Robert at all. It was Littlefinger, grinning, mocking him. When he opened his mouth to speak, his lies turned to pale gray moths and took wing. Ned was half asleep when the footsteps came down the hall. At first, he thought he dreamt them. It had been so long since he had heard anything but the sound of his own voice.
As I said, I live to serve.
Vala to Aerys. All men must serve. Faceless men most of all.
I heard the most awful rumor about a certain lord with a taste for fresh cadavers. Must be enormously difficult to accommodate that inclination. The logistics alone, to find beautiful corpses before they rot.
For years I've heard that Littlefinger is a magician. Whenever the crown needs money, he rubs his hands together and poof, mountains of gold.
When the queen proclaims one king and the hand proclaims another, whose peace do the gold cloaks protect? Who do they follow? The man who pays them.
The other dagger. The one that took her life. I would have stopped that dagger with my own heart, if I could have. I wasn't there for her when she needed me most.
Why would he give you a dagger?
There's only one dagger like this in all of the Seven Kingdoms.
Valyrian steel.
Do you know whose dagger this is?
It's mine.
Rhaegar gives a man his own name.
Boy from nowhere.
A man has said.
A man with no motive is a man no one suspects. Look around you. We're all liars here.
Was that true? Or a lie? I know a killer. A real killer.
That's so.
You'd be like a kitten to him. He'd kill you with his little finger.
To be a faceless man.
I don't like your face.
A shadow.
With the face.
If you think this has a happy end, you haven't been paying attention.
The right way, and the show ends on its own terms. And when I read the scripts for the last season, I was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
It's one story from, season 1 to 9, and it makes sense.
Littlefinger is the player in the shadows.
Well, certain characters have it coming. The character I played definitely had it coming. Once, House Baelish had no lands, no name, and no gold. Now we have quite a lot of each. What new rung will the next generation climb? Let us not be hasty. I'm not finished yet.
He only wins if he loses his life.
He is the one that breaks the wheel. The one moving quietly into the darkness.
So who do you think is going to get the throne in the end?
Oh, Littlefinger was, I had money on it.
Yeah, well, that's hopefully somebody unexpected. I'd like to think that whatever way it goes, it's going to be in an unexpected way, and people don't get what they're going to be expecting in a good way.
Valar Morghulis, all men must die.
Thank you all for your support, and I hope you like this one as well. Please be sure to check out the video in the description. Hit the like button and subscribe. It's always nice. And what do you think, Bob, about all this?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.